IT in general is a sort of a passion of mine since my youth. While other kids were playing football or something in the streets, I was coding. My role is to make it modern, make it coherent. That's a challenge. I like to adapt to the situation and mainly to the person I'm talking to, because each one of us is very different and very different from morning to the afternoon. We are complex beings. You have to learn a lot of things to do just one thing: think for you. Don't let the other people's opinions think for you.
This is CRNet TV. My name is Hendrik Deckers and I'm here today with Luis Engrossa, who is until recently the IT director of ERSAR, the Water and Waste Services Regulation Authority in Portugal. Welcome, Luis. Luis has a degree in marketing management, MBA in international marketing and finance, and was for the last 15 years the CIO at this organization. And he was recently appointed as head of IT and training at the Portuguese National Institute for Conservation of Nature and Forestry, where we are a guest today. And Luis is also the co-founder of the Portuguese Blockchain Alliance. A very warm welcome, Luis.
You're welcome also, and nice to meet you here.
So, Luis, what I wanted to talk about first is at ERSAR, the data center program that you have implemented there. What was the challenge? How did you approach it? And what were the results?
All right. The challenge was quite simple. I mean, we had an old data center. It was no more a very nice thing to have. A lot of services were depending on it. And then we had to make a decision. We need a new one. Mm-hmm. Back in those days, the cloud was not a very important issue. So we consider it, but with something in mind to the future, not to have in mind in those days. Mm-hmm. So we decided to implement a new data center from scratch. The thing is, we had an old data center working there in the same place. So we had to make all the modifications in the space during the same time where the production systems were there. Yep. It was a very nice challenge and program to have in place, and it took about 3 months to implement it physically. Mm-hmm. So that was the first part. So the challenge was we need better conditions because we have a lot of IT systems that rely on this infrastructure, yep. And the present infrastructure is not okay. So we need a new one. That was what we did.
And can you explain again what really the function is of ERSAR in Portugal?
Okay, ERSAR is a national regulator for a sector that involves water, tap water delivery to the customer, and also waste and sewage. Yep. There are several entities that provide you those services. Usually water and sewage are the same identity, and the waste is provided by usually another company. But these companies need to be regulated.
And they're typically private companies in Portugal?
There are both.
Oh, yeah.
So that's one of the reasons we need a regulator. What's the regulator? Mm-hmm. It's an identity that's dependent on the national Portuguese parliament. Mm-hmm. It's not dependent on the government, because the idea is to have the technical stuff first, not the political. Okay. So we have a lot of engineers from those kinds of services looking at the services that are provided. Mm-hmm. So imagine this: you have a public service provider and a private service provider. So it pursues a lucrative activity. Mm-hmm. That's normal. Okay. Yeah. The public provider usually uses another kind of approach.
Yep.
So the regulator is here to tell the first ones, you guys should lower the prices because their pressure is to go up with the price. The public providers usually do the opposite. I mean, they are depending on elections, so they tend to want to lower the price. Then the regulator,
below cost.
You know you should go up with those prices because you have to support the cost for that activity. So the regulator regulates the price economically. That's one of the functions. The other functions is to ensure that the water for human consumption, tap water, is okay for us to drink. Portugal has almost 100% secure water, so you can go anywhere and you can open the tap water, tap water, drink it directly, no problems whatsoever. You can taste water different from one place to another, but that's usually a condition of the installation that you are using, not the quality of the water that's provided to the customer. So Portugal in that case has made a tremendous evolution in the past decade or so. So, and that is due to ERSAR's main functions.
Yeah, and you were there the CIO for 15 years. And what was your role as the CIO? What was your main objective, your main contribution to that organization?
I had this immediate concern. The lights must go on, the systems must be running. That's the main concern. Then we have another concern, that's we are providing a service to the society. We should make it very real to have a very good service provided to the citizens. I mean, for instance, when you pay the invoice for water in Portugal, a small fee is directed to ERSAR. It represents less than 1% in the budget of any family. But I'm talking average. But it's a very important service, because if you don't have nice quality water, you can't have a very public good health, for instance.
Now, besides the data center that you redone and revamped, were there other interesting programs that you implemented in this the company that you would like to talk about?
Sure. The other one was we had this difficulty. First of all, we were needing a new document management system. I mean, not new. We didn't have anything. We had paper, lots of paper, and we needed a document management system. Then we start looking for those kind of solutions. We found a lot of them, but then again, we were also needing a business process management solution. And that is not the same thing. Those are two different things that need to work very well together. Back in those days, there was no good solution to that issue. Then we started to see, okay, but we are a regulator. We need to produce some sort of KPIs and to promote a sort of virtual concurrency and between operators, those entities that provide services to the customers and citizens in general. So we are not able to buy those things. They are not done. The other option is, okay, we develop those in-house. But we are a small organization. ERSAR is less than 100 persons. So how can we handle that? We end up somewhere in the middle. we've chose OutSystems, a Portuguese platform development company.
It's a low-code development platform, right?
Yes, it's a low-code development platform. They were also, back in those days, starting more or less.
It's one of the biggest IT companies, unicorns in Portugal, right?
Yeah, it was one of the first unicorns in Portugal right now. But they had a few years ago this big contract with the U.S. Military organization. I think it was all the government military organization in the U.S. So that should be good for them. Yeah. But we are a few years before that when we started to have these kind of issues, and when we made the contact with OutSystems, and we thought, okay, this is the right thing for us, because it's possible to develop fast applications. It's possible to have governance all over these different applications. We can have several projects with several teams going on over the same base system, and we can do a add-on approach with modular approach. Yep. And that went very well. We started to the first modules were obviously process management and document management. So those were nuclear. Also a directory of organizations that have to report data to ERSAR. And with the years going on, we digitalize a lot of processes. For instance, when it concerns to tap water quality, the operators or the providers, as we call them, they have to report to ERSAR some sort of business plan that involves thousands of analytical data in the quality of the water. Yeah. So, and they have to say annually, look, this is what I'm going to do in the next 12 months. It's very detailed, because they have to say, we will go to take samples from that house, that coffee, that hotel, in that street, in that day, and the number of parameters are the list in those. So it's a huge amount of data that's recalled, and those things were previously done on paper. So we had those activities sort of digitalized, and now the providers report directly in our system. So the data is on our side. They are able to correct the data during certain kind of periods, all according to the Portuguese law. These things are have to obey to a lot of rules.
So you're a big fan of OutSystems, a big fan of low-code development tools?
Yes, I'm not a developer anymore.
And one of the early adopters as well.
Yes, yes, we are. So that was a good solution for us because otherwise we would have a myriad of systems, business rules, and a lot of.
So you would say if there's no standard software available, and you don't want to go and program in C++ or whatever you want to program in, that low-code development tools like Mendix or OutSystems and so is a really good platform to go quick and build a lot of functionality even for smaller organizations.
Yes, and there is another concern in there. You have to be able to do the governance on all those small things. Yeah. All those bits of codes, and the thing has to be coherent.
And that's easier in these systems?
Yeah.
Okay, and how is that easier? Because everything is in a central place, or how do I need to see that?
Because you have a lot of tools, to do those kinds of tasks.
Okay.
These kinds of platforms provide you with those tools.
There's like a library of tools and templates and so on and so on. Yeah.
And the developers work with those. They are, you can say they are. There is a certain kind of orchestration in the development cycles, yeah. And it's possible to very rapidly, very fast, to introduce new features, modifications, bug fixing, and everything, without stopping the system. No. I mean, we have two major deliveries in those systems, mm-hmm. By months.
Okay.
So it's good.
So every month you can have 2 new versions of the applications, yeah. coming out.
Or different modules, or different screens, or whatever. The granularity it's the one that you want to have. Okay. So it's very nice for the users, and they really love this kind of involvement and feedback loop, because if they say, look, there is something here that should be working in a different way, and yeah. If you have the opportunity to really fast change that and point out, is it okay? Do you agree with this? Yeah. They feel like there's something that belongs to them. Usually that kind of approach is very good, and it's very different from the other kind of approach that people say, this is what we want to build, and someone else is going to build that. Yeah. They return to you after a lot of time, yeah. 6 months, yeah. and when you see it, okay, it's not really what I was looking for. And your requirements have changed
in the meantime, and so on. Okay.
Yes, that's
So let's talk a bit about your new role here. So you're now head of IT and training at the Portuguese National Institute for Conservation of Nature and Forestry. What is this organization about, and what is the role that you have and the challenges that you're facing in this organization?
Okay, the organization is a totally different one from ERSAR. Uh-huh. It's also bigger. It has about 1,500 people, mm-hmm. and it's scattered all over the country in more than 80 places. Mm-hmm. I'm fairly new here, yep. So I'm like sort of a foreigner in here, but I'm grasping these challenges that we have here. Mm-hmm. When it concerns to IT, the machine role, the machinery, servers, data center, and everything. At the moment, that's not those are not my issues. Mm-hmm. We have a different organization here, so here I'm focused in the systems.
In the applications.
And the applications. Yeah. Systems as applications. Yeah. So, what do we have here? We have a myriad of systems, mm-hmm. or applications, if you call it that way. Applications for fishing, for hunting, for forest management. I mean, a lot of those. Those are some of those are in use, and other ones are in under development right now. We have a document management system. We have a process management system, sort of. We have a human resources system, a financial system, and they are not talking with each other. So that's
so there's a lot of legacy, complete different systems, and
yes.
And your role is to like review how can we go forward.
Yeah, and my role is to
make this more modern.
Yeah, make it modern. Make those silos talk to each other. Mm-hmm. Make it coherent, and that's a challenge. Yeah. That's a big challenge, because this is a very big organization when you think about Portuguese standards, because it's a small country, and we have a very different kind of people working in here. Of course, we have the people in the headquarters, like here, where we are at the moment. But we also have the guy that's the lumberjack, so the guy that's cleaning up the forests, and so we and those guys also need tools to work, not only saws and axes and everything else. They need software to assist them. There is also some sort of responsibility when it concerns to preservation of nature, endangered species, species that invaded this territory that they are not from here, some kind of diseases, for instance, the plague, for the porks.
Yeah.
That's I think it's in Europe. It's not in here in the northern part of Europe. It's not here in Portugal or Spain. But those kinds of challenges are all over the place.
Yeah. The National Institute for Conservation of Nature and Forestry, where you work now, is a very widespread traditional administration, let's say, that needs to go through a kind of a digital transformation, correct?
Yes, it started that transformation. We are now at the moment where we have a lot of different pieces, so it's normal. If you have something that's not digitalized, you work with paper. Yeah. Then from those guys that work there, a few of them, okay, let's digitalize this process. Let's use this system or that application to do this. And then we have a sort of mushroom forest with silos of information and data stored in those silos. Now we need to do the next step. Yeah. It's going to make it a coherent system. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the Blockchain Alliance as well. Yeah. You're one of the co-founders there. What is it exactly? What's its mission and goal, and what are the activities that are going on?
Simply put, Blockchain Alliance envisions to bring this blockchain and DLT, distributed ledger technologies, to the enterprise medium, and also the government and the state. I mean, the idea is to provide information to the different stakeholders. Look, there is something new here, something that you should know about, and eventually also play some kind of role when it concerns to legislation making. Of course, we are not involved in that because we are a private organization, but
you can influence that.
Yeah, we can try to influence.
Yeah. Is blockchain a hot topic today in Portugal?
I think it is. I mean,
and what do you see as major opportunities, for instance, in administration in the world where you live in? You see major opportunities for blockchain in this kind of organizations?
Definitely, because when it concerns to a government, there are a lot of services and a lot of small applications. For instance, if you as a citizen want to go hunting, you need a license to hunt. Yeah. Then you come to here at this institute. You can do this online, of course. Yeah. You obtain your license. Okay, I'm a hunter. Yeah. I have a license. I've paid for it. Now I'm going to hunt. When you're in the bush, if the police approaches you, they will ask, "Where is your licensing for hunting? Do you have it?" "Yes, it is, officer. It's here." Yeah. imagine a situation when you don't need to have a paper or a card or whatever, a token, but you have it somewhere in the blockchain. So
it's publicly available for the right people?
It's publicly available for the right people. In this case, you have it and the authority can check it.
Yeah.
The only thing they have to do is identify you.
Yeah.
If they identify you, okay, you're okay to...
They scan your iris, your eye, or your fingerprint.
You can use the national citizen's card. It's more than enough.
Okay.